Hello, my name is George Moore, owner of Moore's Sewing Center in Southern California. This Sewing Tech Talk with Cathy series is a new series we started that describes a trifecta of creativity, which is a phrase I coined when I put the Brother Stellaire series in combination with the Scan and Cut and the new print moda. This combination really unleashes the total creativity in embroidery, applique, embroidery quilting, and everything to do with embroidery. And so let's give it to Cathy, and you can tell how excited she is, but we'll come back and I'll tell you the special deals we have on these components.
Fun project today. It's an I Spy quilt, exploring the connection between the Brother Stellaire and the Brother Scan and Cut. Pretty amazing machine embroidery applique. And the print moda printer, well, that just takes it to a whole nother level. I'm Cathy, this is Sewing Tech Talk, and I think you're going to have to agree this is some bang up sewing technology on Sewing Tech Talk. So I have a fun project for you today, and I think that you might be kind of excited about this fun one, because I think of it as, well, it's an I Spy quilt. And what an I Spy quilt is, a whole bunch of different images on a quilt, and you play with a child or whoever and say, let's find this I Spy with my little eye, a bird or a dolphin or something like that. So it's a fun project. And I think of it as a great project for beginning embroiderers, because it's like a tasting menu of techniques. For each of these little images you can do something that's kind of fun. And I thought it was a great way today to explore with you the connection between the Scan and Cut and the Stellaire. They connect to each other using my connection, and there's a great way to take a cutting file from this and make it into an applique. So we're going to explore that in detail. But the quilt I made, this is my I Spy quilt, and it's pretty big, my friends. It has 72 spaces to put a little image. And, well, that's a lot of little embroideries, and I love to embroider. So what I'm also doing is I'm also using the print moda printer to print some of my images. You can make them specifically. Back in the old days when we made an I Spy quilt, we had to hunt everywhere to find images on fabric to make the quilt. Now, I'm just going to print them myself. So here's one cool thing I want to show you. So on the top of my quilt, now instructions for the quilt are in the handout. And in the handout also is, I'm talking a little bit more about the connection between the Scan and Cut and the Stellaire. I also have a separate video on the printer. So if you want a little bit more in-depth information on that, check out that. But check it out. So here's the top of my I Spy quilt, and I want to show you this cool thing that I made. I think that is pretty amazing. On the top of this quilt it says I Spy with my little eye, and check it out. I printed out an eye and made a custom embroidery applique, and this is plastic on the top of it, so it looks pretty spectacular. Now here's my question to you. Do you think you could go out and find that fabric? I think you could search the world over, and unless you print your own, well, you're not going to find it. So I found an eye, I printed it out, made my own custom applique. Pretty sweet, right? Some of the other images I did were, I found, this is my old toy from when I was a kid. Check him out. He's a little monkey. His image is there on the quilt. And I also have a deck of old maid playing cards. Now, I've looked at these often, and I've thought, why aren't these cool images, probably from the 50s or the 60s, why aren't they fabric? Well, now they are, because I can print my own. So, like I said, you can take whatever you have, whatever photos you have, and print your own. It's pretty cool. There's also an app that's dedicated to the printer. And let me bring it up on my iPad here and show you. Let me bring it up. Now you use a mobile device. You don't have to have an iPad. You can use any tablet that is connected to the internet. So you can have like a phone or any kind of a tablet. Now, I just happen to have it on my iPad, and it's called Artspira. So within Artspira, there's all kinds of different things that you can do. There are all kinds of free embroidery designs. Now it's connected up to your Stellaire or Luminaire embroidery machine. So there's free designs. There's free printing designs. There's all kinds of fun stuff on Artspira. So here's my hat. Here's what I'm going to print. I've picked up 3 illustrations from the from this built into the program. To add another one, all you do is you hit plus, and then you can go to find whatever design that you want. Now there's a whole bunch of free ones. There's also a paid subscription that you can get. The only problem with the paid subscription, there are so many choices, both in embroidery designs and in printing designs and all kinds of stuff. So let's see what I want. I want to add something. These are just my favorites. And you just move the design where you need it to be, and you can do that as many times as you need to. You can also print off your computer. Like I said, check out that print motive video. Just check out that. So once I have that, all I have to do is I have to send that off to my printer. So having said that, we'll do that in a little bit. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about my connection and the connection between the Scan and Cut and either the Stellaire or the Luminaire embroidery machine. What happens is, and I hope you've seen my other videos where I've used my Design Center or IQ Designer to create your own embroidery design, right? Well, the cool thing is this is artwork that can be sent to that machine, and it's pure, beautiful artwork. So, for example, I wanted to do an embroidery for my little quilt that I'm making, my I Spy quilt. Now, an applique is great because it doesn't use up a lot of thread. It takes a lot less time than stitching out a big design. You can stitch out those designs if you want to, but like I said, I have 72 different images or designs to put on this quilt. So I think I needed some that go a little bit faster. So if I'm doing my connection, oops, and touch your machine like you mean it. I'm going to go to, whoops, that's not where I want to go. I want to go to my connection. And what my connection is, it's going to be where the Scan and Cut can send artwork to the embroidery machine for digitizing. And it's also where you can receive an applique that you have created in the machine. So it's the exact perfect size for embroidery applique. So when I touch my connection, I have the option to either send or receive. Now I'm going to select design to send to the machine so I can show you basically how that works. So I'm going to go send, and it's going to bring up all the available designs that I have, or artwork I should say, to send to the machine. If I have pattern, that's all the patterns that I can use. Machine's memory is patterns that I may have taken from this section of the machine and kind of modified or put a bunch of together and saved them to the machine so I don't have to go and find them again. So let's choose a pattern, and I want to do a snowflake. I think it's under this category. There are so many shapes, and these are all just categories. Maybe under the snowflake, that might be it. And I think that's the one I want to use. Yep. That's the one I want to use. Now it brings it up. I can change the size here, or I can change the size of the machine. It's no big deal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say OK. And it's going to show me that design. Perfect. That's what I want to do. There it is. And when I set it, I get the option to transfer that off to the machine. Now, this has just one part to it. If I have a design with multiple parts, that is going to be, say, maybe an ice cream cone with the cone and the ice cream. I can bring those designs in separately and send them off to the machine. So I can bring in another design, send them off to the machine, and all of those images are going to come in at once. You can only transfer one at a time. Once they get to the machine, then you can save them and do your thing. So I have this all set up to send my snowflake. All I have to do is hit transfer, and it's going to transfer it off to my embroidery machine, where I can take this beautiful artwork, and I drew it out. I actually had the Scan and Cut draw it out. There it is. There is one I stitched ahead of time just to see what it would be like. I know I need to make some changes because I took a look at it, I need to make my embroidery satin applique maybe a little bit thinner, but once I do my test, I know what I want to do. Now all we need to do is go to the machine and create our snowflake. I've sent it off. Now let's go to the machine and let's pull up that design, and I want to show you how simple it is to make a design and turn it into an applique in the Stellaire. This is sewing tech that it's revolutionized the way I do embroidery applique. I'll see you over at the machine. So I sent the designs from the Artspira app over to the printer and printed them out. Remember, I used the designs that were built into Artspira, and there's tons of them on there, and I just sent those over. You can use your own photos. You can take pictures of any artwork that you've made. It all is free game for printing it out. And for this quilt, this is for a kid, but could be, I don't know, it could be a collection that you have, or landscape photos, love where you live, all kinds of different inspiration. Also in the Artspira app, there is a magazine that's monthly free, but you can also have the subscription to have one every week. And it's a great way to get inspired and do all kinds of fun stuff. Now, I printed those out, and what I'm going to do is, here they are, pretty cool, right? Now remember, I could have put them kind of closer together and just did like an applique piece, because applique is so easy. And take pictures of whatever you want to put in the quilt. It's pretty great, and they come out really nice, and it's 100% cotton fabric, so it's going to work really well. So now that is the printer, and the more pictures I print, the less I have to embroider, and the faster this quilt's going to go. But I love to have the embroidery on there too. So let's create that snowflake. I sent that snowflake over, and this is my design center. Now this, what I'm going to do right now, is an exclusive feature of Brother with the Stellaire or the Luminaire connected with certain scanning cuts. So we're going to go to the shapes, and these are all the shapes that I traditionally have in the Stellaire. But when you add that scanning cut, you can add a whole bunch of different shapes. You can see I have been playing. So what it's going to do, it's going to pull that design down from the cloud, is where the scan and cut sent it, and it's going to bring it up into the artwork that I have. Now this is all artwork that I can do whatever I want to with, and there's some pretty cool stuff. Now if you have, for example, I did the ice cream cone in 2 parts, you could send both of the parts over to my design center to work on them separately. Here's a chair, here's an orange that I did, but we're just going to do a simple one with a snowflake today. So all you have to do is automatically selected is oh, and look at these cool letters down here that can become embroidery appliques or embroideries. So okay, now there's my snowflake. Now what I need to do is I can create it as any kind of an embroidery. So I can, for example, come on in and choose any one of my fill designs. I just want a solid fill for now. Let's make it blue just because it's a snowflake. Okay. Remember, I could do all kinds of different things. Anything I can do in IQ Designer, I can use this artwork for. And I'm going to fill the inside of the snowflake and make it blue with a design. Now I'm going to turn this into an embroidery applique, and what's cool about the Stellaire is it will do it automatically. I just have to have an area. So I really don't need any stitching around the outside edge, because the machine's going to automatically add it. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say I really don't need a line around the outside edge, because I know I'm going to add it with the machine. So I'm going to touch my outside, make sure everything is no-sew. And when you hear that clicking sound, you know you've got everything. Perfect. Now I'm good, and now I can save it into the memory. I can do multiple parts of it if I want to. And the handout tells you, I take you through the step-by-step to do the ice cream cone, to do the separate parts. So when I go next, what I have is a basic snowflake, preview, okay, and there is my snowflake. And I could stitch it out that way, but let's take it the next step. So we're going to go send it off to embroidery edit, where I have this new super cool feature. Under the applique, this feature is added when you connect the scan and cut and the Stellaire or the Luminaire. When I hit applique patch, what I can do is I can select that part of that design. Remember, the design could have multiple parts, and I can turn them all into applique. When I go next, Then I have options. If there's inside, and there is, see the little parts on the inside? I'm going to touch this icon here and it's going to grab all the insides and all the outsides. I can have a zigzag stitch, I can have a satin stitch, or I can basically just have a placement stitch. And remember, it's going to turn it automatically into an applique. Now, I've stitched this out before, and I thought that this zigzag around the outside edge was a little too heavy. So I think I'm just going to choose a zigzag stitch because it's a snowflake. So let's take this, and doesn't matter. If I want to have it a little bit smaller, I think that's great. If I want to change the density of it, all kinds of different fun stuff. But let's see what that looks like. See what my changes did. It's going to show me that there's my snowflake, and it's going to show me where the applique part's going to be. Let's turn that off and see basically what it looks like. Oh, that's pretty good. Now, that's what it looks like with an applique. Let's go next. And now I'm going to send it off to the scan and cut. This is the cutting file that it automatically creates. This is the stitch down where I would have to cut around that applique, but I don't have to do that. So let's tell the machine I don't want that at all. Okay. Now basically, there's my design, my applique ready to go. I'm going to go to embroidery just for a second to show you. Oops, I don't have the right one in there. Oh my goodness, I need to make it smaller. Well, we could do that, I guess. But let me put a bigger frame in, but I wanted to show you that if I want to send it off to the scan and cut, exactly like that, I'm going to touch this icon and that's going to send that applique file. Now, if I had changed the shape of it, it would do that for me automatically and give me the exact size snowflake. I'm going to have to change to a bigger frame, but let's send this off and cut it off at the scan and cut. By sending transfer, by selecting transfer, it's automatically going to send this applique, this size, everything I need to cut over to the scan and cut. And I'm going to need to do that. I'm also going to need to change to a larger embroidery frame because I guess I made my snowflake a little big. So let's head on over to the scan and cut. We're going to cut that exact file. Now I wanted you to notice something. If I hadn't been talking and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, this process would be so fast and easy. This process between the marriage between the scan and cut and the machine has made embroidery applique quick as that. No cutting around it, but also instantly transfer exactly the size you want. I'll see you over at the scan and cut. So I took a artwork from the scan and cut using my connection and sent it off to the Stellaire to create an embroidery. And after the embroidery, I took that embroidery and made it into an applique and sent that applique cutting file back to the scan and cut. But imagine you don't have to even create your own. The convenience of this feature, right? So I did this quilt behind me. I loved it. It's called Animal Adventures from Anita Good Design. Had a blast making this quilt. It's gorgeous. It's fun. But what happens is before this connection that I had to cut all of these different appliques either the old-fashioned way, you know what I'm talking about, or sending the files onto a USB drive and putting them into a scan and cut and then cutting them out. That means I had to find them, I had to make sure that I had the right ones, all kinds of stuff. The process of being able to send that design applique file directly to the scan and cut and boom, cut it out means that you can almost virtually multitask while you're doing machine applique, and it makes the process so much faster and easier. So you don't have to create your own design for it to be using this and really making this make your embroidery applique so much faster. The other part of the puzzle is my next big project is I have this as the 50 States, another Anita Good Design big project. And I was honored to be able to travel the country for another sewing machine company and take all kinds of pictures, visit almost all of the 50 states. Imagine this. Say I'm doing a quilt when I'm doing the outline of the state, and my picture of something I took in that state is in my applique. What a cool quilt that would be. It's kind of like a scrapbook that's a quilt that's... imagine the possibilities of combining all of this. It's pretty exciting stuff. It's sewing tech. to the max. So now, let's receive that applique and cut it out on the Scan and Cut. And this process can be very fast and easy if I wasn't talking all the time. So what we're going to do is go back to My Connection. And last time we sent artwork to the machine. Now we're going to receive the cutting file that we need to cut this snowflake. So I'm going to touch Receive, and either from the machine or anything that I had received before and combined and saved onto the machine. So let's receive it from the machine. And what it does is pulling down from the cloud, because remember, both of these items, the machine and the Scan and Cut, need to be connected on a network together, and so they can talk to the cloud. There's my snowflake right there. Now, it's only one part for this applique, but say, for example, I'm doing a multi-part applique with multiple parts being an applique. When I touch the shield, it shows me all the parts that are applique for this piece. And I can select them one at a time. I can put them on my cutting mat and cut them all out at once or separately. It doesn't matter. But I am going to cut the snowflake. Okay, now there it is. I'm not going to change the size for sure. And I'm going to say Set. And it's going to show it on my mat. Now I have put some fabric on my mat, and the cool thing about Scan and Cut is you can scan the placement of your fabric on the mat, and I've already put like the fusible substrate on the back of my fabric and stuck it down to my mat. This is the low tack mat with fusible substrate on the back of the fabric. All ready to go into my embroidery applique. I'm going to make sure I put my snowflake exactly where it needs to be, right on this fabric. Check. And I could even blow up the image if I need to see it specifically to put it, or I could fussy cut. If I printed out a picture like I want to do for the States, I can make sure that my applique hits the exact part of that picture that I want to feature in my applique. Cool. I'm going to hit OK, and I want to cut the design. And it's figuring out that it needs to cut it. Great. I can do a trial, but I've cut a bunch of appliques and I know I'm already set up. This is the Scan and Cut DX, which means it has an auto blade and it's going to automatically put the exact pressure, speed, and everything I need to cut my applique. Start. The machine's going to come on over, check out how thick the mat is, and then check out how thick my fabric is, and cut my snowflake. Pretty cool. And then all I have to do is take my snowflake back to the machine. Now, when the Stellaire created this applique, it created a placement line. I said I didn't need another line for cutting around the applique because you know who is doing it. Then, after I do that, all I have to do is put my thread to stitch around the outside edge. Remember, I just put a basic zigzag around there, but I could have done all kinds of different stuff. I could have put a satin stitch around there, and I could have modified the size of that, but it's going to be pretty just with that zigzag stitch because I think it's going to look a little bit more snowflake-like. So my snowflake is all cut. Look at how cool that is. All I have to do is lift it off, go over to the machine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch that outline, going to iron down my applique after I perfectly place it. I'm going to stitch around it, and oh my goodness, I'm going to end up with a perfect snowflake on my I Spy quilt. Now remember, you may not want to make this giant I Spy quilt. You may not even have this connection. Go ahead and make the quilt anyway. You're going to want the connection though. I'm going to send it off to George, but I think you can, oh, I want to thank you. Thank you for letting me beat my drum on this cool sewing tech. Take it away, George.
Thanks, Cathy. That was an incredible presentation. And so let's go over the special offer we have on the Brother Stellaire series. So we have the XJ2, which is their combination sewing and embroidery, and the XE2, which is dedicated embroidery. They both share the same embroidery features, which is a large 9.5 by 14 inch embroidery area with over 780 built-in embroidery designs, and of them, over 100 of them are Disney. It also has over 30 fonts and large beautiful monograms. And with the fonts, you can edit in all kinds of arrangements. You can arc, you can array, you can even cut and paste and kern it in some custom ways. Speaking of customization, you can take a design and do an automatic applique around it. And with the matrix copy, you can copy this very quickly to make patches. And if we had the scan and cut, we can actually send it to the scan and cut out those patches, and then embroider them beautifully. An additional advanced technology is a new 2-point laser positioning. I can take something like a name and position it perfectly on a line. I can use it to do multiple hoopings and match them perfectly. I can even use it for edge-to-edge quilting. Now, part of what the Stellaire series offers is a special relationship with the scan and cut. They actually can marry together, so I can send an applique design right from my machine and it will cut it out perfectly for beautiful applique. But better yet, I can send a design from my scan and cut and turn it into embroidery. It also unlocks a new feature where I can choose one of the colors of my design, whether if it's a built-in design, I can choose that and turn it into applique. But let's take that heart that I sent over. I turn it into embroidery. I select the color, and now it's applique. Now let's bring over the third part of the piece. I want to create my own fabric, and I can do that with Print Moda. I took an image of a rose and I arranged it just in a beautiful kaleidoscope of color. And I printed that fabric and placed it on in the scan and cut. I took my design I created on the Stellaire from the scan and cut, sent it over to the scan and cut it out, and I have one complete embroidery design created with that trifecta of creativity. Now the XJ2 also is a sewing machine, and it has a large 11.25-inch opening, beautiful lighting. It has 760 built-in stitches, from quilting stitches to applique to utility. It even has automatic stippling and some beautiful decorative stitches that are very, very wide. It also has an automatic 1/4 inch feature which moves the needle over a 1/4 inch from the foot, and you can use the laser guidance it has on there so you can just do some beautiful piecing. It also has amazing fabric control with an automatic fabric sensor, and this gives you the ability to sense multiple layers like in denim, or if I want to sew on some sheer fabric like this tricot, I can do that beautifully, or even working with elastics. It handles the fabric beautifully. If it's even more extreme, we can add the digital dual feed. This is a belt-driven feed system that gives perfect contact on the fabric. And so you see here with this marine vinyl, there's no slippage. I also can use it with such things as minky, which is hard to sew with, and of course, quilting. So let's talk about the special we have on the Stellaire XJ2. This is the combination sewing and embroidery machine. This has a manufacturer suggested list price of $12,999.99, and it's on sale for $9,999.99. We have interest-free payments, plus we're offering free shipping across the country. But wait, we have a special bonus. We're going to include that Print Moda Studio, that fabric printer by Brother. That has a retail value of $1,499, and that's included free for a limited time. Now, let's say we want the ultimate package, the trifecta of creativity. That's when we add the scan and cut. So you add the scan and cut, now we have all three items, and we have that on sale for $10,749.98. We have interest-free payments and free shipping across the country. But wait, this is for a limited time. Now, if I want just the dedicated embroidery, let's say you already have a sewing machine and you want the XE2, which is dedicated embroidery, this has a manufacturer suggested retail price of $9,999.99. We have it on sale for $7,499.99. We're offering interest-free payments as well as free shipping across the country. And of course, we're going to include that bonus, the Print Moda Studio, free with the purchase. And that has a regular retail price of $1,499. But let's make it the ultimate, the trifecta of creativity. You'll get the scan and cut added with that, and that total package for all three items is $8,249.98. And we do also have interest-free payments on that as well, and free shipping. But don't wait, this is a limited time offer. Click on the link to order. You can email us at customerservice@moores-so.com or give us a call at 1-800-865-9664.